All right, there we are. We're live.
Hello.
Welcome, Fraser. How you going?
Good, Chris. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's getting a bit cold here, though, isn't it? It's getting real cold in Melbourne. I'm assuming it's the same in Adelaide.
Yeah, freezing. I
Dang.
love the winter,
Yeah.
and coming into this cold weather, I was like, this is nice. And then, yeah, I had a moment today where I was like, it is cold. It is really cold.
Yeah, yeah. It was, I think, 3 degrees when I woke up this morning, so
Oof, yeah,
not
I
fun.
think the lowest I've seen is 4, so
Mm,
comparable.
yeah, it's getting around that. So yeah, I did live in England for a while, and that got to -5. So I can't complain
Yeah.
too much. It's nowhere near that. I remember coming back after being there for a couple of years, and I was in the city in the middle of winter. I'm like, when's it gonna get cold? So it's so warm. And then yeah, it took me till the next winter to acclimatise. I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it could be worse. Could be worse. What are we doing today? We've got a couple of things on. What's the plan?
Yeah, so I think I promised last week an update on Arvo, and
Right.
Gemini
Yep.
have been smashing that out pretty well, even
Excellent.
getting around our Git problems, which has been
Uh-huh.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Git
I
problems.
am.
You have Git problems? Who has Git problems? Sorry, I can't believe it. Git. We'll have to get
Yeah.
Linus Torvalds on one day to have a bit of a chat about why the hell he made this thing called Git, which is the
I mean,
bane of all game development teams, I think.
at the end of the day, we're not having to pay for it, so
Yeah, exactly. That's yeah,
I'll
yeah,
take
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's free, like Linux.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to even touch that. I'll stick with Windows for now. When I'm ready for that, I'll
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It'll be years from now, I think.
Well, at least till the end of this year, when they are going to try and force me to switch
Oh my
over to Windows
gosh.
11. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I've been not looking forward to that. I've kept my desktop on 10, and I keep seeing the updates, and I look at my partner's laptop with 11, and I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like change.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. And it's supposed to be full of spyware and crap as well. And I do have
Well,
an old
yeah.
laptop that I put Linux on, and that works pretty well. There's some new distros of Linux that work quite well. So I think Mint Linux is works sort of just out of the box, and it's pretty good. But you have to make some changes. But then again, maybe
Yeah.
Steam OS is sounding pretty good.
Oh right, yeah. I didn't even think about that as a
Ah.
an option. Are they still
Mm.
like developing that further?
Yes, I think they've just
Interesting.
brought it out on a Lenovo handheld.
Oh,
So people are sort of talking about, will it become a desktop thing? I think they're trying to make it a desktop. Well, yeah, it's a complicated history, but yeah, people want it to. Yeah, people want it to. So particularly gamers,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I used to be more up to date with a lot of the tech stuff. And I remember when like the Steam Deck was really, like I guess first come out and popular. I was seeing and hearing about people like adding peripherals and monitors to make it sort of like the little handheld hub for more of a desktop setup and how well
Hmm.
it was working, and you know that was all interesting. And that's where I was like hearing a lot about Linux, but I think what I got left with for that was sort of what I've had to wade through with this business course I've been doing, which is like it's great, but there's a billion options, and you gotta figure out which set of options is best for you. And
Hmm.
my brain's at capacity, I feel like, so
Mm. Oh,
just
yeah.
shelving it for later, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's so much. If you're starting sort of a business, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Yeah, cool. So, what else are we doing? We got through. I think one. We talked about Kit. How did we get waylaid? What
Oh,
else are we up
because
to?
Arvo, we've
Arvo.
managed to get
That's
around
right.
some of those. Um, I am looking at our prototype month deadline,
Mm-hmm.
which I've had ticking in the background. If I
Which
can
is
log
when?
in,
When's your deadline?
let me get the exact. If it loads, we have 11 days, 8 hours, 25 minutes, and 3 seconds remaining on our deadline.
Sorry, how many days?
11 days.
11 days. Okay, okay. So, a bit under 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and so we've made a lot of good progress, but I think in that time, I am off to Sydney Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, and then my
Ooh.
parents are visiting from my hometown, so I'll catch
Mm-hmm.
up with them Saturday and Sunday, and I'm like, oh, there goes like half the remaining time already.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be interested to see where this prototype ends up, but it's been really nice to just be cracking through doing some dev stuff, and I am keen to get back to the design stuff that we've been talking about, but
Mm-hmm.
seeing those sort of instant results, it always feels like eating sugar, where you get that instant feedback and that sweetness. And I'll get to my fruits and veg of design documents
Yeah,
in 11 days.
yeah, it's the I guess the impression that you're actually doing stuff. Yeah, whether you're doing it sort of in the best way or the most efficient way, but it's the impression you're doing stuff, isn't it?
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. That
Yep.
instant feedback.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you sent me a link to the FBC Firebreak gameplay overview
Right.
trailer.
Right. This is what we look at now, is it?
I would love to jump into that. Obviously, we've done quite a few videos on Remedy's sort of game design approach,
Yeah.
covering Alan Wake and Control and even Quantum Break.
Mm-hmm.
But this feels like quite a different step for them, and I've been watching it for a bit, like when they first did the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this looks really interesting. I'd love to break it down.
So interestingly enough, yeah, because we were talking about Elden Ring Night Rain, weren't we, last week?
Mhm.
And about how that's kind of like the bastard child of Elden Ring and Fortnite. It's kind of like, okay. And then also, in fact, I did a class, and I sort of released that as a video earlier today on Arc Raiders, which also has elements of Fortnite in it as well. It's just kind of interesting that even how many years after Fortnite came out, I think it's 7 years now. I think it's 7 years.
Wow.
It's getting that long. It's still very popular, and it's still sort of people are chasing, or I say companies are chasing that sort of Fortnite-esque money. So that's kind of fair enough, I guess. I want money. I want my money. Would you sell your soul for for a bucket of cash?
Maybe if it's a big bucket.
A big bucket of cash. A very well. Fortnite is definitely a very big bucket of cash. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So let's move. So yeah, this is. Let's have a look at the FBC Firebreak gameplay overview trailer. So let's jump in. Hang on, that is really loud. Let me just put that down a bit.
Hello from Remedy Entertainment. I'm Mike Kayada, game director on FBC Firebreak, a cooperative first-person shooter for up to 3 players set in the iconic world of Control. Firebreak takes place within the oldest house, the impossibly strange extra-dimensional headquarters of the Federal Bureau of Control. 6 years ago, the oldest house was invaded by a hostile force known as the Hiss. In response, the FBC instated an emergency lockdown, trapping the Hiss inside and turning the entire building into one giant crisis zone. That's where you come in. You'll be playing as a member of the Firebreak Initiative, a group of brave first responders who volunteer to take on the weirdest and the deadliest crises threatening the oldest house. Every crisis appears in the game as a different job for Firebreak. These jobs function like game modes that you can customize in 3 ways. Clearance, which affects the length of the session. Corruption, which affects the session's modifications and randomization. And Threat, which affects the combat intensity. Of course, taking on longer and more challenging jobs will mean more opportunities for greater rewards. Next, it's time to choose one of 3 crisis kits for your Firebreaker to take into the field. The Splash Kit, which is good for extinguishing fires and removing harmful conditions from your friends. The Jump Kit, which focuses on mobility and charging electrical devices. And the Fix Kit, which excels at knocking back enemies and repairing machinery. Each of these kits is a saved loadout featuring a defined set of specialized gear and whatever gun, grenade, and set of perks you think suits its playstyle best. Once you've selected your kit, you and your crew will arrive by service elevator to the job site, where you will be tasked with clearing a number of crisis zones depending on the clearance you selected. To clear zones, you'll work on its unique objectives and use your tool to efficiently repair broken machines like the shower, which is key to healing the team and removing harmful conditions. Or to charge batteries, like the one that lights up the ammo station, letting your team resupply faster. Or to douse the flames that buff your enemies, and sometimes light your friends on fire. Now, if you don't have the right tool, you can still do the job, but it will be slower and definitely more dangerous. Once you've completed all of the zone's objectives, you'll be able to open a containment door and proceed deeper into the crisis. As you put down the crisis, more and more hiss will be attracted to the area, sometimes including dangerous enemies that trigger job site lockdowns until exterminated. During combat, it is especially important for you and your friends to group up, as your resonance shields will become amplified while you're sticking together. And if any of you have upgraded perks equipped, you'll be able to share their effects using that same system. Upgradable guns and grenades are your best options for pure damage, but your tools add a lot of utility to a fight, allowing you to stun, knock back, or escape the hiss when things get intense, as they often do. Each kit comes with its own altered augment, an extremely dangerous paranatural item that charges up over time, allowing you to deploy massive amounts of combat power during critical moments. Just keep in mind that augments are extremely volatile and can down you and your friends if used haphazardly. When playing a job with corruption turned on, you'll soon discover that not all altered items are under Firebreak's control. Firebreak will encounter various corrupted items during these jobs, which significantly modify the experience while active. Anything from causing corpses to explode, to lowering the gravity, to making sure that you don't cross the street when you're not supposed to. Corrupted items aren't affected by bullets or explosions, but you can chase them away if you find a Blackrock neutralizer. When the final objective is completed, you'll trigger evacuation. A large number of hiss will descend onto the job site, and you and your crew will need to make it back to the service elevator in one piece. Getting out alive is no easy task, and sometimes you'll face difficult decisions, like when to rescue crewmates in trouble, and when to cut your losses. Back at Firebreak HQ, you'll have the chance to put whatever you collected to good use, unlocking or upgrading equipment and perks, or picking up new cosmetics to customize your Firebreaker. Of course, there are worlds more to discover inside the Oldest House when you and your friends play for yourselves. So gear up, and we'll see you there.
Yes. So, I'll just turn the. I'm gonna mute it, and we'll have it playing, and we can maybe comment on it. But actually, maybe I don't know whether I'm gonna get a strike by doing it full screen. But anyway, thoughts?
My initial, most immediate is, wow, that looks a lot like Deep Rock Galactic. Are you familiar with?
I am not.
Deep
No.
Rock? Came out quite a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 4-player. Hang on, let me pull them up on Steam and see how they describe themselves. 1 to 4 player co-op FPS featuring badass space dwarves, 100% environments, procedurally generated caves, and endless hordes of alien monsters. So similar sort of like mission structure. You group up with your friends, you select a mission type, which will determine sort of the objectives you have to go against. That also helps determine like there's different sort of environments that games can take place in. and yeah, there's in Deep Rock there's 4 classes compared to Firebreak there's 3.
Yeah.
And each one plays slightly differently. They have different utilities. They help achieve the objectives differently, but also handle enemies in different ways. And so I'm looking at that and I'm like, I really like Deep Rock. I wonder if this will scratch that same sort of itch, that sort of like class-based
Mhm.
cooperative shooter.
Mhm. Right.
But yeah, that's my first impression.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm listening to the trailer. I guess number one, what I'm struck by is the voiceover, the guy at the voiceover. I mean, this is a very different game to Control and Alan Wake, and Alan Wake 2, etc. I mean, let me just turn it up a little.
At knocking back enemies and repairing machinery.
He's nice and upbeat, and so it kind of sounds to me this is very much aiming at a different audience.
It reminds me of, and maybe this was the case, but like the sort of gameplay overview you see at like the award ceremonies and like the showcase stuff. And I know, what was it, Steam Next Fest happening,
Mhm.
has been, and I think is still going for a bit. So I'm like, maybe if this was first shown there, I can really understand like the format of presentation that it's in.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the gameplay trailer as well. So there is like a trailer, but this is the what they call gameplay overview trailer. Yeah, I just like, it's a different. I think it's a different audience. I think it's going for a different audience to me. Even the gameplay and everything as well. It reminds me of that Steam game from Valve. Goodness me, what's it called? It's been around for a long time. In fact, I think it's almost not around anymore. Not Counter-Strike. What's the other one? What's their other multiplayer?
Like Team Fortress?
Team Fortress. Yeah. Reminds me
okay.
somewhat of Team Fortress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's, I don't know, I guess maybe I'm like too into the details of it, because I'm like, well, Team Fortress is PvP, where this is cooperative PvE, but like
I'm talking about the style, the style, the feel, the kind of cartoonish, like the actual the design of the players themselves. I don't suppose it's going to come up, is it?
Interesting.
Which I do not like.
feels-
I do not like the design of these. They look too clownish almost. Like it's like they don't look
personally
serious. They don't look serious at all. They look like some yeah, they look like, I was going to say AI generated things as well. They kind of do. They remind me a little bit of some of the stuff you've seen coming out recently from games that have done particularly poorly. Concord, some other games like that. Kind of reminds me of that kind of style, which I'm not a fan of. Yeah, so you can see them here. It's like it's supposed to be upbeat and kind of funny and, fun and high energy, which I kind of get. And this sort of thing as well, I'm like, this certainly wasn't the original. This wasn't the original Control, that's for sure.
I think I can see very clearly the elements of Control, and because Control has, comedic, lighthearted elements in it, right? I mean, a lot of the names for the objects of power that you pick up through the course of the game, they're all like puns, right? Like the floppy disk that had the nuclear launch codes.
But look at this. Look at this. That particular, what we just saw there. Hang on. Let's go back. This. Is that Control to you? That? Ugh. I do not like that at all. That to me that's not Control. That's a kid's game. That's it to appeal to children. This is not like the seriousness of their other games.
I guess it does have that, like, the cooperative. I feel like a lot of the cooperative shooters have that sort of tone. It's not.
Cringe is what I would describe it. The way I describe it.
Yeah, it didn't jump out to me immediately, but I can see
it
it
looks
with you
awful.
pointing it out.
It's like, oh, who is this for?
Me.
Still a child at heart,
Another-
I see. You still
Yeah.
okay? Okay, well, fair enough. But I don't like those designs. I don't like the. And it's funny. I think they look very AI generated.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't. That doesn't ping for me. I think.
Yeah.
I feel like you could say it's like rose tinted glasses, but I think I'm just coming at it with like I'm thinking about a lot of the like there's been a lot of fan theories about what's been going on inside the Oldest House since Control launched.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the release of Alan Wake 2, they confirmed that no, the Oldest House is still in lockdown.
Oh right.
And
Okay.
so people are like, well, that's been like, and I think they say it's been 6 years. You know, what is going on? What is Jesse doing inside the Oldest House that they're still
And now you know they brought in 3 clowns to do some crap.
Yeah.
To shoot water all over. The other one's like shooting water. I was like, oh, what? What am I shooting? Like, you know.
I don't know.
So they're going for the G-rated version or something?
I mean, my brain's justifying it in the sense that, you know, they've been stuck here for 6 years with no outside help apart from, you know, just Jesse. And so, you know, they're making do with what they have. And also, like, I really love the lore implications that Control laid with the idea that objects of power and altered items, they become what they are based on the way cultural habits sort of form. You know, like to go back to that example of the floppy disk that gives you telekinesis, it happened during the Cold War with the fear that it had the nuclear launch codes on it. And so, you know, if there's all these FBC workers stuck inside the Oldest House for 6 years, what sort of you know, cultural sort of habits and rituals are they developing inside? And so I can see, like, my brain is justifying this idea of the Firebreakers in there. But yeah, I guess, like, I don't know, the animations are, I don't think I've seen anything like that from Remedy before.
No.
And
it's like they've
looking
given
at
it
that on its own, I'm like, yeah, I see it. It's like, oh.
it doesn't fit to me. It's like you've got, you know, this very and I still would say, you know, Control and you know, the games tend to be very serious. There's a serious side to them. There may be some humor in there as well, but it's not you know, clown humor, which this kind of seems to be kind of clown humor in in the Control world, and I'm like, oh, it just doesn't. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't think of that aspect of it. The gameplay and everything might be fine, but the design of the characters and this, yeah, no. That's can't handle that.
Thinking about the other games in this sort of genre, like Deep Rock and you know, a lot of the current sort of multiplayer shooter games, they do all sort of skew that way. And so I guess maybe like it's the dissonance of this game being so, you know, and it is set in the Control, in the Alan Wake sort of Remedy universe, and so it's taking a lot of the stylings and the themings from that, but then applying what has become sort of the expectation for this genre. And so I guess because it's a new genre, they're leaning into that, but yeah, taking their other stylings. And so because I play a lot of those games, I think my brain just overlooks and goes, oh yeah, that's what I'd expect. Like when you finish the mission and you see everyone who was there and you all have your custom, you know, victory pose and emote, my brain goes, yep, that's par for the course for this genre. And then it sees all the Control stuff and goes, yep, that's what I want from more Control content. So, but I can understand if you're not playing them, it's like, well, what is this?
You know, we talk about the Disneyfication of things. You know, like a lot of the classic fairy tales and everything being Disneyfied. I think we can now talk about the Fortnitification of games, and I think this is exactly what that is. Like they've taken, you know, the sort of Fortnite childish. You know, Fortnite's a great game, it's very successful, but trying to put those stylistic things into a game like Control, I think, jars considerably. I think it. Yeah, I think it's a mistake. Honestly, I think it's a real mistake. I think this could have been this is potentially a corporate decision. This is about making money. This is not about actually making games. And I think it's perhaps a little bit disappointing that Remedy have gone in this kind of direction. To be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed.
This does segue nicely to one of the questions I had watching this, which is, what is the pricing going to be for it?
It's $40
If
US.
Oh, it
$40
is?
US. So it's going to be what, $50-$60 Australian?
Okay. Well, my concern was that it'd be priced, at a full price. What's that, 80, or with the new games coming out, potentially up to 100.
Mm-hmm.
My concern was it was going to be priced at that mark, which I feel is quite an outlier for these types of games, these sort of cooperative shooters.
Yeah.
And I think, at the end of the day, if this is successful, then that's putting money into Remedy's pocket, which is going to help them make Control 2 and Alan Wake 3, and it's like
Firebreak 2.
they're trying. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to talk about that, that's Respawn, right, with the Apex Legends. Do you know much about what happened with them?
I don't know. It wasn't good, was it?
Well, they made Titanfall, and then
Mhm.
Titanfall 2, which was, huge critical success, and the fans, I mean, me included, loved it. And then with the rise of your battle royales, obviously Fortnite and then things like PUBG, they were like, oh, well, we'll turn our Titanfall system into a battle royale. And so
Right.
they released Apex Legends.
Ah,
And then slowly over time, they just, it was like, oh, Titanfall 3 doesn't look like it's happening anymore. And then sure enough, they kill it. And it's like, it's all these people who want it, but the market decisions, and they're following the market sort of trend, led them
yeah.
down Apex. And, they had really strong IP, and Apex Legends, it draws from the Titanfall universe, but there's a lot there, and I guess in that sense there's a fear that this could happen to Remedy as well. They have really strong single player narrative games, but if this takes off
yeah.
and they lean into it, then
Yep.
it's
Then
double-edged,
hello,
I suppose.
Epic Remedy. They're just going to turn it Epic Games, and just doing this sort of. This is the sort of stuff that corporates really love, because you can make money out of skins. You can make money out of your DLC, and
I mean, touching on that, I brought up Deep Rock at the start, and I'm kind of surprised I didn't think about it last week when we talked about Fortnite and business, and Deep Rock is held by players to be one of the good ones in that sense when it comes to pricing. They release new events. They have like a battle pass sort of thing, and they release new updates and new content. And so far, it's all been free. You just pay for cosmetics.
Right.
But the battle pass, there's not there's not a free battle pass and a paid one. It's everyone gets the same one. You unlock when you play the game in that season, you gain credits that you use to unlock parts of the battle pass, but that's all free. And so I mean, it would be really nice to see this go the same way, where it's like, if you're paying money, it's for the base game and then cosmetics, but all the content stuff is free. And then that goes as well into my questions about like the longevity of it. Are they going to keep supporting this? Are they going to release new content for it over time? Or
I imagine if it's successful, they definitely will. If they can get money, I think it's a pity that they have chosen to put it in the was it the oldest house? The oldest house, yeah. I think that's unfortunate. I think I would have rather them. I don't know. Maybe create some new clown thing, like a circus or something, which would fit with it more. Because I think this is a bit of a. The more I watch it, the less I like it. The less I'm
interesting.
I'm just like I mean, there's a whole lot. There's this whole idea of impoverishing I think stories was sort of the original thing, like where you take a story and you just milk it for all it's worth, and you sort of build on it, and you do different things or whatever. It's the same thing here. It's like they've taken, a world, and they've just like stuck stuff into it which just doesn't fit. I mean, I think it's a huge mistake.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of Alan Wake, and then you watch these little dancing, dancing clowns. How does that really fit?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I suppose we'll only really know once the game's out. Because right now it's fine for me. But if I start playing and it's excessive, then I'll be more inclined to sort of agree. But
did they take lots of money from Tencent or something? Or have they been forced to do this? They're the questions that I'm sort of left asking. But anyway, that's just my opinion. It's probably going to be really successful. They're going to make loads of money out of it. And maybe Alan Wake, and the next time I see Alan Wake, he'll be doing a little jig. Anyway, that's just my gripe. So there you go, FBC Firebreak. So you'll be playing it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I will. I might.
I mean, even if it's just to find new lore. I know you said about what did you say? Where they milk the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But personally, I am very excited to get more info, more lore, more history, and updates about what's been going on in the Oldest House. And
okay. Well, tell us.
For Control. So
yeah, it's out. We're the 12th of June at the moment. It's out in 5 days, mate. Have you pre-ordered or?
I haven't pre-ordered since I was a wee lad. I would not recommend pre-ordering games.
Are you gonna buy it like on June 17th? Is this the plan? You're gonna have played it next time we get together.
I don't think I'll be in Adelaide on June 17th. Oh yeah, that's the day before I head off to. Well, depends what time it releases, I suppose.
I mean, you can just have an all-nighter. just do an all-nighter. What sort of gamer are you if you're not going to do an all-nighter when your favourite game comes out? I mean, really, you're getting old.
I mean, it's been a long time since I bought an all-nighter. I managed to dodge it all through uni.
Right. So. Okay. All right. Anyway, so let us know next time you have played it, and tell us what it is, and maybe even show us some of your game footage.
I'll show you all the cool skins and emotes that I bought.
The cool ones, are they not included in the trailer? The cool ones?
No, sorry, of course not. You have to pay extra for those. Right.
Okay. So what are we going to do next? I think we're going to talk about
Arvo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means I have to open this up, drag this across. There we go. Does this do full screen?
It does Discord full screen. You can hit it in the bottom, I think.
Down here. Full screen. There we go. Are you actually streaming? Stream failed to start. Ooh, lovely.
Ooh, that's fun. I can restart the stream.
Yeah.
Stop streaming. Start streaming.
There we go.
We're good? We're live?
There we go. Yep. Nice.
Right. So, biggest... Should we start with the biggest thing and work through the smaller things?
Well, maybe just explain what this is. What are we looking at?
Sure. So, this is the test world for Arvo, which is the game that me and my partner Gemma have been building. This is the game that we applied for government funding a few months ago and intend to apply for some more in a couple months. We've done some design stuff on stream about it. And then, we've been for a bit over 2 weeks now trying to really haphazardly build a prototype to sort of justify all the different elements we want to be in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So this is your prototype.
yeah.
Yeah.
So at the moment, well, one of the big things is this box.
That's a bit of
it's
a
pretty-
if you'd been driving in that car and then you turn up with that one, that's definitely a little bit of a step down.
Yeah. So, yeah, my focus has been on the active shift mechanic in particular, which is sort of it's a mechanic that's meant to sort of emulate the broad feelings of driving a manual car. So, performing smooth gear changes, feeling rewarding, and messing it up, sort of messing the car up. And so I spent some time. I think last I showed, this little gauge in the bottom was tied to the RPM. Since then, I've switched it over to the speed because I was thinking about it. I was thinking about your comment about, what does it actually feel like to drive the car? And while, the physical relation in the real world is you press the accelerator, it increases the RPM, which increases
Yeah.
speed.
Yeah.
The relation we have to a car is you press the accelerator and your speed goes.
Well,
And so I
no,
thought
I would suggest that depends on what sort of driver you might be. I used to have a WRX turbocharged WRX. It did not. It had actually the revs, but that's that sort of car. I think for most people, what you're saying is absolutely correct. It's the kilometers an hour. Yeah.
And if you're on the road, it's you see the speed signs, you don't see RPM signs. It's like it's a simplification, and some people will they might bounce off it because of that, but I think it engages more people. So we made that change. It also means that the dial is a bit smoother, especially when changing gears. Like the revs don't act sort of as simply as the speed does. But yeah, anyway, the whole point is we now have this dial and we have a functioning active shift. So if I get up to top speed, it locks me there, and if I switch to second and I hit it at the right time, I get a speed boost.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Because we're using the Chaos vehicles, it's a little hard to just go, yep, go fast. And so it's currently acting on the torque. And so I'm sort of preempting a lot of the thoughts we had about it, which is that the Chaos vehicles, because they're a full simulation, they have a lot of convoluted ways to edit things, to change properties.
Do you want to repeat that because you just dropped out of it?
Oh, sure.
Full physics simulation. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, Chaos vehicles. It's based on the full physics simulation of like the car engine. So you can't just say increase the speed. It's increase your revs, increase your torque. What's the friction going on? What are the wheels doing? And so it's quite complicated to make sort of really gamey decisions, which is like changing the revs to kilometers an hour. We're trying to think of the more simplified way. And then the other big thing that happened is when I finished implementing this system of getting a speed boost when you change gears, I showed Gemma and they just were like, "Oh, I thought you got the speed boost when you hit the numpad, not when you re-engage the accelerator, because you said it was based on doing a gear shift." And they don't drive a manual car. So I was using shorthand language that they didn't fully understand. But it was a good moment of, well, if you don't get it, what would then a player is going to have an even worse understanding if they're not a manual driver. So
which most people are not now, are they? Most
Exactly.
people drive auto, yeah.
And it's only dropping. So we had a little brainstorm in that moment, and we thought, well, if the idea is that it's meant to simulate that shifting, why are we giving the player a speed boost? Like, you don't get a speed boost in real life if you shift well. And in the simplification of this, as we developed it, we had this idea that there'd be zones where if you shifted in there, you were fine, and if you shifted out of there, you'd do damage.
Yeah.
Or shake the car.
Yep.
So we decided that we wanted to try it out where we essentially have like an upper shift and a lower shift. And if you change the gears when your speed is in those zones, then that's when you get like a point bonus and the car shifts smoothly. And if you shift outside of those zones, the car shakes and potentially throws all your cargo out the back.
Okay.
So that was a big, like, hang on, think about this moment. Sort of a big shift in the game design, which then led to I started following. Well, we've got this car, which
is this your own design?
is this not
This is
quite,
like a Tesla without a body, isn't it? This is basically just the battery.
It's the batteries and
the
the
battery and the wheels. Yeah.
I've been following a tutorial. I want to get the person's name because it is just entirely theirs. I have not had a chance to really change it up at all because this has only happened over the past couple of days. I should have had this prepared. Ryan Laley on YouTube. He's got a lot of tutorials, and I've been following his kart racer stuff so far. And it's I mean, it's still using physics, right? Like if I go into the blueprint.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So it's physics, but it's not the chaos physics.
It's not chaos. So
okay.
He's got his tutorial, which essentially it's all sort of starting from adding suspension to the wheels. So putting a force onto the wheels so the car, sits at that certain level. And so right now it's kind of frictionless in that state. It has linear dampening and angular dampening, but that's I think it's going to come in more. And then applying a function, which accelerates the car, which is again more add force at location and varying the force depending on if you're holding down accelerate, if it's coming back, if you're in the air, all that sort of stuff. So it's a lot. It feels like I'm doing a lot more steps to get it to the same point, or to even get it to feel like you're driving a car. But because I'm going through it and because I'm using all these more basic functions, feels more approachable, and I feel like I have more control over specific things.
Absolutely.
Than the chaos, because like even things like I think I talked about ages ago with the chaos vehicle, like it'll go to sleep and it's really hard. Like I have to do a console command to like change some of those properties, and there's a hidden, or not hidden, but if I go into the chaos vehicle blueprint, the main thing you're working with is this vehicle movement component, which has, like all these setup stuff that's really, you're looking at the torque curve, the max torque, max RPM, like all these really car heavy things. And I've got some understanding, but not enough to really know what I'm doing around here. And then even what's bothered me is you've got all these settings, only some of them you can actually pull out and do things with in the blueprints. And then there are other elements of it. Where have I hidden it? You've got two different components. So you've got the vehicle movement component and then the chaos wheeled vehicle movement component. And I don't know, it's just been really tough for me to get my head around. So
yeah, I guess it's yeah. I mean, that makes sense. So this new one is just physics, but it's like all manually sort of put together and works in that way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it's
so it's
not
more
simulation.
simplistic, right? So
Yeah,
it's a bit more simplistic.
exactly.
Okay.
So
So it might allow you to sort of do more of what you want it to do rather than using chaos physics.
We've never intended for Arvo to be a in-depth driving game.
Simulation.
It's not intended to be simulation. We really want like an arcade, essentially like a kart racer that you have to try and control to keep physics objects on board.
Yeah.
And so it's like going the simulation route. it was easier to get it started because
Mm.
Unreal's nice enough to just have that there. But yeah, once we're like, it feels like you're peeling off more stuff than
Yeah.
you'd need to.
Yeah.
It's easier just to build it with the functions you need than to peel it back to get it to where you want it.
100%.
So, and I mean, I think this is one of the nice things about having done this prototype month, or well, being in the midst of it, is like, if we didn't, I would have kept trying to make this work. It would have been months from now before I realized, oh, maybe this isn't what we should be
What you should be
basing it off
using.
of.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I've certainly been there, multiple times where you're working with something and it's really complicated, and you're like, am I better off just building my own and starting from scratch, or should I keep going? And yeah, sometimes it is better off just going your own and creating your own thing. Particularly if you want it to be simple.
Yeah, we had this moment with Deep Climb, which was the capstone game that we made for uni, where we had no idea what we were doing, and so we were doing it all from scratch, and we sort of realized partway through, like, oh, there's some tools in here that we should have been using that sort of simplify a lot of this. And so I think we sort of overcorrected when it came to Arvo. We were like, there are tools we should be using, let's use the tools. And we've gone, oh, actually.
Yeah, look,
for this project.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think I would have probably said that too if you had sort of asked me, should we use this or not. I probably would have steered you away from it because it is like that simulation, and it's also like everyone's going to be using it as well, and I think that's something you need to be wary of when you're developing these games and with these existing engines that you don't want your game to feel the same as every other game. So every other car game that's using Unreal Engine 5 is going to be using that. So you want to be careful of things like that as well. Now I noticed this thing jumping around all by itself. Is that
Yeah, this was really simple but really rewarding to make. I talked about wanting to have some sort of enemy.
It's a box
in the game.
It's a box.
And I think I used the example Portal 2 Franken turrets.
Yeah.
So yeah, the idea is that they're not enemies to the player, but to our NPCs, these guys would be danger. And so we just wanted something that essentially, more than an enemy, acted as a target for the world. And so yeah, it's just a box. It's got physics and it's got a little bit of scripting to say, jump around every so many, random amount of seconds in a random direction.
Can you interact with it as well? Are you interacting with that?
Yeah, you can pick
physically?
it up, throw it, and then...
Oh, okay.
The idea is if you're driving, you should be able to hit it and do damage, which of course doesn't work. It's meant to detect if it hits a solid object, there you go, at a high enough speed, and take damage. I think it's a little funky with the corners. Doesn't quite work with the threshold, but then once it takes enough damage, so you can see it's printing out how much health I have left. Once it takes enough damage, it gets destroyed.
I'm not seeing it printing anything.
Oh, just in the top left, but that's all right. It's gone. We only have the one for now. But that was another thing I worked on. That was one of those things that took
Long
just
time?
a small part of an afternoon.
Oh, okay, not too long.
No, not long at all. It was applying some of the knowledge of like the physics forces, and I think I need to work out the hit detection because it's based on like the normal velocity, I think. But proof of concept, it's quite nice. And then every time I come in, Jem has added more things to these fields over here, and I'm still not quite sure how they work, but I know they say it's really simple. We have a data table for quests and for dialogue. So we've got delivery locations and get locations with parameters that we can adjust, and then they communicate to something that to the NPCs, and so we should be able to have a system where you go and you talk to an NPC and they say some stuff, and then you can accept a quest, and then it spawns some deliveries. So
Mhm.
you then load it up into your choice of car, and you take it to a specified delivery zone.
Can you put those on the car yet?
You can. It should just work, but it has not been adjusted for anything. So
So you have to drive really slowly to get it there.
yeah, Gemma is currently building our sort of Ute in Blender.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll have, a
Ute.
tray at least.
A ute, nice.
Mhm.
Very Australian. Very Australian.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, that once we have that, I'm gonna need to do sort of research into how the sleeping on physics stuffs work, because I know physics calculations can get really expensive, and so I think based on the little I know, it's going to be a game of like finding the where they go to sleep inside the car when you're driving, like casually, it's chill, but then finding that point where if you start to tip or you drift around a corner or go up a jump, and they all wake up and start interacting that way.
Okay.
But yeah, so then
So
when
they're
you
just
get
some of the
delivered,
systems. Okay.
you get locked into the conversation, and
Oh, okay. Oh,
get
right.
the
Okay. Yeah,
quest
yeah.
complete.
Oh, that's
So
good. That's good.
it's sort of, I'm trusting Gemma. When I ask them, they go, it's quite simple, and I go, okay, I believe. And so yeah, I think the next stuff. I've been hesitant to jump into the map anymore. I can show you how it's looking.
Sure.
Just because it got quite large, and I know last week we talked about the issues with storage that we had. We did end up
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
deleting and recreating our repo.
Mhm.
So we lost all the history, but now the large file storage is emptied out. But
Did you
the
find out
bandwidth
why that happened?
not in particular.
Mhm.
We think it was just because we had every map was being stored,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a lot of updates being pushed through, and I think I might have gone a bit too crazy with the terrain and the resolution of it.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's on the back burner. I'll look into ways to make this sustainable before I jump back in. But it's coming along. I was working. I don't think I've shown any of
Yeah, no, I haven't seen this.
my location. So down there, I've got a little servo and some buildings. I'll go show in a bit. And the
Is
lighthouse,
this
which I
using
think I
is this
showed off.
using nanite?
I have no idea actually.
Okay. All right then.
If it's on by default, then it would be. It's one of those things of, I think my priority here was sort of getting a feel for how designing a map is going to feel for the driving game. And so this is like
your
our
text
quarry.
to streaming pool is complaining.
Yeah, whatever that means.
So it streams textures. I mean, I've had that before myself. I shouldn't be doing it here because it's basically, I can't remember how big it normally is, but it's usually fairly large. So you might have some large textures there
Yeah.
somewhere, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's been an interesting learning experience using the train stuff and using the modeling, box modeling stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is our quarry location. We had talked about sort of the desire for this sort of type of space in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the quarry itself down there. And then this is sort of like, get out the car and explore type of location to add interest and potentially be hubs for different NPCs.
Okay.
And so yeah, I've designed all of this. My main philosophy in here was keeping the view sort of restricted, especially into the quarry. So you can go down to the little walkway to see, but when you come into this sort of office building, the view's always hidden until you get to the top.
Yeah.
Try and lead the player through the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm quite happy with how it turned out, especially this little bit here where you get this really of the afternoon sun with like the guttering and the railing. I really like the angles.
Mm-hmm.
And all the light streaming in. and obviously this would be populated with props and all sorts, to sort of, you know, further encourage the player to explore.
You can have characters
when
in
you
here
go-
as well, NPCs. To
Yeah,
interact
that's what
with?
we're thinking.
Yeah.
Probably not quite at the top, or if we did, it would be somebody who doesn't want a lot of, like, we might have an NPC who wants a lot of delivery quests down the bottom, and then maybe a more unique NPC up the top who's got, you know, relevance to the location and can add to the narrative.
Yep.
And then, yeah, you get to the top and you can sort of see the idea for the quarry is that there'd be, you know, big chunks of stone that are cut out and sort of like a racetrack down the bottom, just being one of the open spaces. And then, yeah, I just tried to add, even in this early stage, like little bits of interest. So I've got like the roofs are slightly sloped. They've got gutters and then guttering, which leads to a little water tank. Just little things to try and give the player some sort of something to find, even in this stage.
Mm.
I think the main thing I've learned from doing this is, especially like this bit over here, is the first bit I did this way. It's too focused on the player being on foot, and there's not enough options for the player driving. The main thing being, if I drove all the way up here and drove, I'm then stuck and have to reverse all the way out, which I just don't feel like is super engaging for a game about driving.
Yeah, I guess you want to. Yeah, you want to decide. Yeah, whether you.
And so I think even as simple as adding a ramp here, so you can jump the fence and you know, go crashing down into the quarry, it just gives the players the option to keep moving forward. Something I'm trying to be more aware of. But in terms of sort of the visual language, I'm quite happy. I think maybe it's a bit too squat. But if you're looking at it from down here, oh yeah, no, even then it's only just peeking over the hill. So something I think a bit higher, maybe some lights to sort of draw the player's attention.
Are you trying to capture sort of the Australian outback feel as well?
Yes, yeah, and I think this mountain range is killing it quite heavily.
It reminds me of some parts of the Australian outback, but if you turn the character around, bit further, no, other way. There you go. That's it. That's the Australian.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's it right there. It's very flat and featureless with sort of occasional things. But I mean, you might have to. I don't know. I mean, but there's different parts. There are parts that have sort of small mountain ranges and things like that. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking about my experience in Australia, and over there, and like, yeah, 100%. This sort of like almost entirely flat with a couple hills.
Yeah, and a few
I
bushes and a kangaroo or two. Yeah.
This is sort of just, you know, I feel like very classically in games you use steep mountain ranges to sort of help border the world and keep the player in bounds.
Well, that's a question you need to answer. So yeah, how are you going to keep your player in?
The design stuff, we talked about it. You know, you threw out the idea of the radiation, and I looked into that Maralinga and sort of the idea of like having army testing ranges, which is quite didn't used to be a huge thing in Whyalla, and then I remember growing up and they started taking more land and they did a lot of like training and explosives and not out there, and that became a bit contentious with the locals. And
well, interesting.
So
okay.
I have there is actually, and I think that I kind of hope it's maybe also more broadly a common Australian experience, is that sort of the fences that pocket and sort of help cut up the landscape into things. So after like testing out the terrain tool and making this landscape, I think way less tall mountains and just fences, big stretching fences. There is something that feels very outback about standing next to a fence and being able to look all the way to the horizon and just see it going and reaching that vanishing point. So I think most of the sort of boundaries will be like a coastal sort of water boundary, and then more fencing.
And are we talking sort of rabbit-proof fence style fence?
I don't know. I don't have an image of that in my brain, if I'm being honest. But I did grab an image that I'll pull up of sort of where my brain's at, because Gemma and I did have
Yeah.
a moment, Gemma being in South Australia, where we had different impressions of what a fence in the outback would look like.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just gonna get my narrative design doc up.
I mean, I've spent time in the NT in Queensland as well, and yeah, different, definitely different. But I have driven to Central Australia from Ballarat, so yeah.
So this is just some of the things that I've been thinking about. A lot of these trespassing signs and
Yeah.
bombs and lasers, and they always have the flags with the army as well that they'll change for when they're shooting and when they're not.
Oh, that's
And
really
then
interesting.
this sort of
Okay.
fencing is what really jumps out to me. If I can make that
Right.
bigger for stream.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So like these like wooden posts with the
Yeah.
wire running through. I think that might work in some parts. Obviously, making it taller so that the player can't get out of bounds too
Mhm.
easily. And then, but also, I think you can say like a lot with the fences, depending on how they look. Like these rounded wooden posts with like the fence in it feels very like farmland to me.
Mhm.
But I really like how the fences at the quarry turned out with their like square boxiness and this really dense grid. This felt way more like this is an industrial area that's fenced off. So I think we could use different types of fences in different patches to sort of convey the history and the world building of the location, as to why you shouldn't be on the other side of that fence.
So that might also depend on the materials that you use for the fence as well. I mean, I think with this material on it, like if it was metal or something, I'd say industrial. Yeah, okay. But at the moment, I'm not sure that it says that to me. But yeah, depending what you put on it.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's been it. The big takeaways have been, I mean, the file size for one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then just trying to come up with more driving experiences, which is something I'm really is out of my depth. I feel far more confident with designing for the player on foot.
Are you a fan of Borderlands 2?
I've never played a Borderlands game.
Because this reminds me of a level in Borderlands 2, which has lots of driving and stuff in it. I was going to suggest maybe checking it out. I think you can pick up Borderlands 2 pretty cheaply.
Surely.
And there's an entire level which this reminds me of it a lot, and you might be useful just and I'm pretty sure that's an Unreal Engine 4 game, I think.
All right. Yep.
I mean, you might get some ideas, you might get some inspiration or things that you don't want to do as well, maybe from that. And there's lots of you can go the jumps, you can fight other vehicles and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of, and they also have flying vehicles all coming in. Yeah, so
I definitely need to do some more research. So I've written that down.
Yeah. Well, Borderlands 2, I just recommend just check it out. If you can, you can't borrow copies anymore these days, can you? You can't. You can't just here's the disc. But that's certainly one I think. Might crystallize some of your ideas and things that you don't want to do as well, as much as things that you maybe take inspiration from.
Yeah, I'm keen to get into that. It's been nice doing this like hands, sort of practical, learning from doing.
Yep.
But also like looking at this and being like, oh, I need to like get rid of parts of this because it doesn't work. Like that's the downside to doing it right. Is when it doesn't work, you have to then have that moment of like peeling things back and removing things again. So
I reckon some of your challenges may well be in getting that Australian feel while also keeping the character in, because just a flat plane it's not necessarily gonna do it. Yeah. I think that could be an interesting challenge. You could just chuck
Yeah,
Ayers Rock in there somewhere. So Uluru. It's there. It is. It's in South. It's not far from South Australia, from the northern part of South Australia. Just over the.
I mean, it's a drive and a half for sure. But
yeah, I drove there with a group of students. I didn't do the driving. It was someone else did the driving. But I think it was like 4 days driving straight, pretty much. We were there for a day, and then another 4 days or something driving back. It was an experience, really, really interesting. But just the flat monotony when you're going through so much of that Central Australian desert. Like it really is just there's just nothing there.
yeah, and I think like Arvo is going to be coastal, and maybe I should be leaning into that. And
sure.
like you said, really focusing in on making sure that it feels like Australia, and then using those to help decide where things are located and what sort of elements there are and how the landscape looks.
I think you just need to do you just need to do a bit of your research and it'll come together.
Yeah, it's one of those areas where like I really love the idea of level design, and I'm learning more bits about it, but it reminds me of like starting uni for game design generally, where it's like I don't even know where you start to design. It feels a similar way for level design and map design right now for me, where I'm like, I've got ideas and things I want to try and theories, but where do I actually jump in?
Well, I think you start with with the images and stuff. That's to me that's the start. Getting real images of the area you want it to look like, and then have a look at those. Get sort of a mood board going, and then jump in and see what you can do in an actual level.
Yeah. Well, even like to that extent, like my instinct when it comes to designing levels for on foot is to use pencil and paper and start, mapping it out that way. But I'm like, if I'm doing whole terrains,
it's much bigger. It's just a bigger.
Yeah.
It's a bigger thing. That's why maybe have a look at Borderlands 2, because it's got that large terrain map, and it's also got ones where you're on foot as well. So you've got both of those. It's worth checking out. See what solutions they came up with.
Cool.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So that's where it's at the moment. So that's good to see. We'll keep looking at the progression.
Sounds good.
Another 11 days on this, and you're back into the design phase.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. Nice. So I think you're also going to take us through some Yakuza. This game we've heard so much about, but I did have a copy of, or have got a copy of it on console. I think I played it once, and you know that old trick of buying a game. Oh, this looks good. You play it once, and then you never play it again. That's my experience with Yakuza. So interested to see so much what we've heard about recently.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's going to be a bit of a leap of faith here.
Yeah. So this is recorded footage, stuff you recorded.
No, we'll do a little bit of live gameplay.
Oh, a bit of live gameplay.
Over to the application.
Okay.
So that you can get audio.
So we've got about 20 odd minutes left. So.
And I might need to adjust that a little bit for myself. Okay. So yeah, I guess the framing of this is thinking about what was it? The narrative, the player story, is where sort of I was most interested in it.
Which one is this? Which one is this?
This is Yakuza Kiwami 2.
So this is which one in the franchise? Where does it come in?
So this is the. Why is that spinning? The second game, but this is the remastered version of.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It looked a bit flashy from from what
Yeah.
you're telling me. Yeah. Okay.
Um, but yeah, I was thinking about, was it Rust that you did the player story
Yep.
that we talked about last week?
Mm.
And sort of, it was interesting to me in that sort of multiplayer game how linear it felt. Like, I know obviously it's a game and so there's choices, but
Mhm.
obviously the point of the player story is to sort of put that into a linear timeline.
Mm. Well, in
so,
fact,
yeah.
Rust is an open world game, so I mean, you can say there's choices. There's infinite choices in which way you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think Yakuza lines up with Arvo a little bit more in that way, in the sense of, like, right now it looks like I have a thousand things going on with all these purple markers, but
Mhm.
typically you have one purple marker which shows you your main quest, like the storyline quest.
Right.
Right now it's got many because it's asking me to go to a taxi to go to a different location,
Mhm.
and so there's taxis all over the place. But yeah, normally there's one, and then otherwise you have these little blue conversation markers which are side objectives.
So it is open world. You can go wherever you like,
Yeah. So
but
this
it's
whole map
fairly,
is
but it
free
is
roam.
fairly linear in that it tells you what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and there's very few, even like the main story missions are very and they'll often do things where, like, they'll put you in the map and, like, maybe I'm here at Theatre Square and I need to come down to, like, this cafe down here,
Mhm.
and they will put roadblocks up on the streets,
Oh,
and so you'll run through.
clever.
And
Clever.
if you're in a story mission and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do something else, they'll be like, no, you turn around, you have to go.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
I mean,
I
it even
like that
happens-
as a design solution to limiting the where the player can go. Yeah.
It happened to me like the last time I played, actually, where it wasn't on this map, it was in the other map.
Mhm.
And essentially, like, if I had to get to this pink spot, I tried to come down this way, but it was blocked off across here
Mhm.
because they had set up an encounter for me to see on this side.
Oh, right.
And so, they'll do it to also really make sure you're, like, lining up with the cutscenes that are going to play, or you get the right sort of experience when you're walking down the street.
Mm.
But yeah, I thought Yakuza's interesting because, yeah, you always have that choice to go to the main story or go to a side story, or yes, you'll come across random events, which is, fighting people.
Oh, I love
he was
the
on
I love the the juice in the fight there.
Oh, it's so nice, and it's like in Zero, I was like, oh yeah, this is good. I see popularity, and then in Kiwami 1, I was like, oh, it's so much better, and then now in this, I'm like, it's even better again. And then the other little thing that you can do around the world is you can find these little glowing items.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes they're collectibles, or sometimes they're these coin locker keys, where you can go and get consumables, and it's another way to make money. But yeah, it's, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, wow, this really does line up quite well with Arvo.
So, in what ways you seen it?
Sort of the open world nature is the
Yeah.
main thing.
Not the fighting and the particle effects from when you.
Not, I mean, yeah, like, obviously no, but yes as well, a little bit, strangely.
How so?
Like, fighting these groups of enemies is one of the main ways you make money and get experience to unlock new skills.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're walking around the world, on your way to the main quest or a side story, and you see one, usually, unless you're sick of it, you want to go and fight them to get those bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
And so that combined with, finding the little glowing, like I can see one glowing over there, just above Curious Head.
Mm-hmm.
That idea of, like, getting distracted while on your way to play the game is something I would love to replicate. And that's sort of where like the quarry and the lighthouse come in. Arvo, it's like putting these landmarks that, like, oh, that looks really interesting, I wonder if there's anything there. And then, rewarding the player with narrative and little bits of lore, or just, straight up points, currency, or whatever,
Yeah.
That's relevant to the game progression. So, yeah, that sort of player story, I think I would be really interested in building it out for Yakuza, sort of doing that analysis, and then coming back and saying, okay, well, almost using that as a framework for
Yeah,
Arvo
yeah, yeah,
as
100%.
like a guiding pillar.
Because the player stories allow you to sort of focus in on what you actually want. So you were saying, about Rust. I mean, if I had have gone into every potential option they could have done, that they could have, where the player could have actually gone, then you'd never get anything done. So that's kind of almost irrelevant in a sense in that story. I'm telling the sort of the generic story about. It doesn't really matter where you go. You're looking for resources. You're running around. You're trying to either avoid or combat, do combat with players. You're trying to build up resources so you can build a base. You need to find somewhere to build a base. It doesn't really matter where you go in the open world. That's kind of what you're doing when you first start. So.
Yep.
The same thing, I mean, you could certainly do here. You could work out your player stories, but focusing on the things that you really want to focus on. You don't need to include those things that are not useful. So if you do that, let me know. I'd be really interested to see what you come up with.
Yeah, it might be in a couple of weeks once the prototype month is over, but I do want to. And it is interesting hearing you sort of, reinforce that idea that you get to just focus. Don't look at me. I don't want to think about it. Focusing on the things that you want in the story, because one of the things that hasn't crossed my mind, because I've been thinking about it in the context of Arvo, is all the mini games. Like, Yakuza is quite well known for like the karaoke and like baseball and bowling, and they love to have all these mini games in there, and I'm like, it's fun and I enjoy some of them, but it's not relevant to my player story, I guess. When I play this game, it doesn't really come up. So,
so again, yeah, that's your experience, which you're wanting to build on your experience and transfer that into your game. So, yeah, absolutely.
It is really cool being here. I think I mentioned in Yakuza 0, this skyscraper here, this Millennium Tower, it doesn't exist because it's set as a prequel, so it's set in the past.
Okay.
And what I loved about that, without knowing, because I'd heard Yakuza 0 was good, but from fans of the series, and so I started there, and the whole plot revolves around, in this patch of land, there's one empty piece owned by somebody that nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows who owns it. They just know that it is. And the central storyline revolves around you being framed for killing someone on that patch of land. And so then it becomes this thing of like how you can clear your name, but also get that patch of land. And then, because it turns out to be, this skyscraper that is now prevalent in the story. And so had a moment in Kiwami 1 where you jump into like present day, so like 2004, 2006, and walking down the street, which is all mostly the same, but then to see that skyscraper, oh my god.
That's
like that's what happens to that patch of land, that key element of that story. And then, on a smaller scale, it happened, I described the other week, starting Kiwami 2 and being able to get into buildings and alleyways without a
cutscene.
Yeah, just walking straight in. And even having fights inside of them, inside of the buildings. It's like none of this could have happened unless it was scripted in Kiwami or 0.
This is so Street Fighter, isn't it?
But yeah, I'm so glad I started playing this, and I thank everybody who told me I should give it a go. Oh, that's a guy. Is it?
Is that? No, he's trying to run away.
There we go. Get out.
Was he a thug? Or another thug?
This looks like it might have been.
Does look like a really good game. I have to admit, it's
Yeah.
If I had time,
yeah, right. It's been a step up, which has been really satisfying, and it's one of those ones where I'm really glad I played 0 and then first.
Mhm.
Because if I had played this and then tried to go back, I'd have been like, oh, all those nice features, graphics, and things I'd grown accustomed to are
Mm.
gone. Whereas now I get to have that satisfaction of like, oh my god, like I can do this, I can go there, I got these like quality of life changes.
So is the other one remake as well? A re what is-
Kiwami is a remake of Yakuza 1, but
Right.
this is what I tried to explain last week. It's a remake in the same engine, but they hadn't developed the engine as much as they had when they made 2.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
And then 0, I think, is built in a different engine, or maybe they're in the same one. But yeah, all I know is in terms of like quality of life and technical improvements,
Mhm.
it increases from 0 to 1 and then 2. I am interested to see what happens when I go to 3, because I think Yakuza 3 Remaster is older than Yakuza Kiwami 2.
Ah.
But I'll let you
Well,
know
you'll
when
have
I
to show
finish
us.
this
Yeah.
game.
What's
Yeah.
that huge? What's that huge cone doing there?
I don't know. In
Is
Kiwami?
that an accidental scale? It's like
In-
a
In Kiwami 1, there's the side character Majima, who wants to try and beat Kiryu up to make him stronger. He's like very much the comic relief, and one of his like quest lines is he's hiding inside of things around the map, and you have to go and investigate the objects that look suspicious.
right. Well,
All that to
those
say-
cones definitely look suspicious.
Yeah, so in Kiwami 1, I can actually pick it up. In Kiwami 1, he's hiding under one of those cones. And you know, it's huge, so you're like, that's odd, and you go up to it and you can interact with it and he jumps out and you fight him. And so I don't know if that's a holdover, where they're like, well, these giant cones existed in the last game and not all of them had Majima under them, so they have to exist in this one.
Mm.
Which, if that's the case, that's brilliant, and I love the commitment. They're like, no, we established that this is a thing that exists, so we have to follow through.
Yeah, that's maybe they have them in Japan. Maybe it's something in Japan.
Or it's that, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. I'm not sure, but they very large, very large.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, that's
Right, yeah.
that's about what I've got to report.
Okay, nice one.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks, I will have made a player story for this, and I'll be happy to share it. On
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see that. Yeah, that'd be really good. Be really good to see that. So nice. Alrighty. Well, I guess we'll kind of wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Great to chat again, and we'll be back again next week.
Not next week.
Not next week.
I won't
Oh,
be
we're having
here.
a week off. Okay.
Yeah, week after.
So you're off. Hit the town in Sydney.
Yes, I will be at the Critical Role live show. So
Critical Role
That'll be
live show.
fun.
I have no idea what that is.
I'll maybe next week I can give you a rundown.
Oh, okay.
Fill you in on what I've been up to.
No
Or
worries.
week after. Next stream is what I meant to say.
Next, yeah, week after. Cool.
Yep.
Alrighty. All right. We'll catch everyone later, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time.
Cheers. See you then.
Alrighty. Cheers. See you everyone.